Okay. Today is July 14th, 2007. I am Jessica Clark. It is a pleasure to conduct this interview for the Dakota Memories Oral History Project in Edgeley, North Dakota. To start with, can you please state your full name?
Clarence, Meidinger,
And where were you born?
Lair, North Dakota,
And when were you born?
May 15th, 1929.
So you grew up during the Dirty 30s.
Right,
Do you remember what the Dirty 30s were like?
a little bit.
Can you tell us about that?
Okay, I started school in 36, first grade. Dry, a lot of grasshoppers, a lot of snow, a lot of rabbits. We counted. We had 2 miles to school, and we counted as high as 80 rabbits in the 2 miles. and my father, he hauled us. Well, first in the early fall, when we started, we had to walk. But when the winter come, our dad hauled us every morning and got us every night. And when we got home, we had chores to do. You know, we had to carry water, we had to carry coal, so we had work to do. And I don't ever recall that we had a lot of homework like the kids do nowadays. and then when my sister was through school, she's 3 years older than I am. Then I had a shuttle pony. I rode to school every morning and every night home, and there was no arguments. There was just what we did, and what we had to do, and we never missed very many days of school neither.
Do you remember what school you attended?
I can dig out my certificate.
Really?
Yeah,
That would be great.
I can. Should I do that now or?
We can do that after we finish
Yeah,
recording.
I got my 8th grade certificate.
That would be fascinating.
Yeah. In fact, I got a picture of when I was first grade
Really?
with the class, with the whole class.
So school, was that really important to your family, getting an education?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you enjoy going to school?
Well, I don't know if I did or not. I know. When I got through high school, through school, that was about, well, I would say late 30s, or, well, 36. I got out of school in 44. Well, anyway, what I'm trying to say, my brother got drafted in World War II, and I just loved to farm, all about the early 40s when all the new machinery come in after the drought, everybody bought nice, and I was fascinated with farming, And of course my brother got drafted, and my dad had sort of a heart condition, and I just felt obligated that I'd stay home and farm, and that's what I did. And then in 49, he retired, and then I farmed for a couple of years, and I farmed and worked for John Deere and Chevrolet and Lair, Gable Brothers. And then I got drafted in the Korean War, so I went in the service in '51, and come out in '52. Oh no, '53. Excuse me. And things didn't look all that great. And then my brother, in the meanwhile, when I had to serve, my brother took over the farm, my older brother. And when I got out of the service, things didn't look all that bright in farming. So I decided I was going to go to trade school in Wahpeton, and I took up auto body and repair. And that's what I've been doing ever since. I graduated from there in 1957. And I've been doing that ever since. I'm sort of semi-retired since '94. Turned it over to my son, my youngest son. And I still help them along. I do what I want to.
So, you served in the Korean War for 2 years?
Yep.
When, how old were you?
Well, I was born in 29. I went in the service in 51, so that would make me 23. 22.
22. How, do you remember how the draft worked when you were a kid? How did they inform you that you were being called up?
I can show you my draft papers.
That would be great. We would love to see those.
Would you?
Yes. When we are done, we're gonna definitely get those out.
Yeah.
So they would just send you a notice and.
Let's see. I can't tell you how it read, but see, I had to register for World War II. I just missed that by. I don't think I missed that by 6 months. Then they eliminated the draft. See, I had to register in May of. My 18th birthday, I had to register for the draft. Yeah.
So, when they called you up for the Korean War, where did they send you?
Greetings. What do you mean?
Where did you first go when your draft number was picked?
I went to Logan County. That's the county seat, Napoleon, and they hauled us to a bus in Dawson, and we boarded the bus and we took a basic physical in Fargo, and then we come back home, and I don't think we were home no 90 months, 90 days, I don't think. Then I got draft notice. I think I went for my physical in Fargo in August, and I got left for the service in October, if I remember correctly.
And then when they did call your draft number, where did they need you? Did you serve in the Army?
No, I served in the U.S. Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. So where were you stationed?
In Camp Pendleton.
Pendleton, is that in California?
California.
Were you ever shipped overseas?
No, I was ready to go overseas, and what they call an MOS number, that's a spec number, that they needed people to organize the 3rd Division. The 2nd Division was in Korea, and they organized the 3rd Division to go over there and relieve the 2nd Division. Well, and that took a lot of work organizing the division, I'll tell you. I got in on that. There's lots of work to be done when you organize a division. Anyway, when they were ready to board ship, I didn't have enough time left to go with them, because the draftee, we were only in for 2 years.
So what did you think of your experience with the...
Well, at the time it was tough, but today I wouldn't give it up for anything. I wouldn't... I would recommend it to anybody. I mean, putting in 2 years of service, I don't see anything wrong with that. It makes you realize or appreciate things, I'll tell you that.
So when you were 18 and sent to Fargo, was that the first time you'd been to Fargo?
No. No, well, wait a minute. I had to register for the draft at 18, but I didn't get drafted till I was 21. No, I've been to Fargo a couple of times, maybe.
Okay. How about California? Was that the first time you'd gone to California?
No, I went out in California with my folks in 47.
Oh, really?
I had about two or three uncles and about two or three aunts that moved out to California in the 30s, about in the 36, and we went out to visit them in 47.
How did you get out there?
Car.
Was that a long car ride?
Scared to death of going over Donner Pass.
How many people were with you when you went over?
My sister and brother-in-law and my dad and mother.
And what type of vehicle did you have?
41 Chevy.
So was it a straight drive over? Did you guys stay the night someplace?
Oh yeah, we stayed 2 nights.
Was it in a motel?
Motel, yeah.
Okay.
And every motel we stayed was alongside a railroad track, I swear. I remember that.
So when you were growing up, did you ever ride on a railroad car or train?
First railroad ride I got when I boarded the train in Fargo for Minneapolis. Then we boarded the train and then we head for Camp Pendleton.
Did you ever work on the railroad?
No.
We started out talking about the Dirty 30s, and we've covered quite a bit now, but I want to go back a little bit. Did you ever see a dust storm?
Oh, you bet.
What were those like?
Well, I know the fence lines were covered with sand, like the snowbanks are nowadays. I think I could still take you out the whole place and show you some. Of course, with this big machinery and stuff, I suppose they worked them down, but there were just banks and banks with sand.
Was it hard for the crops to survive at that time?
Oh God, they didn't survive. Grasshoppers, they ate them faster than.
How did your parents fare during that time period? Did they?
Well, I remember that they were awful concerned. I know that they were concerned well, I shouldn't say where the next meal's coming from. It wasn't quite that bad, but they were concerned. I remember that.
Do you know if they ever needed government assistance?
I believe they got some of these surplus foods or stuff like that. I remember one thing in particular. Grapefruit was a big commodity.
Did you have grapefruit before it was provided by the government?
I don't think so. Of course, I wouldn't remember, but I don't think so.
Did you was the WPA or the CCCs, did that impact your family at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember them real well, though.
What do you remember?
I remember people. See, we lived close to Highway 30 in North Alair, about 4 or 5 miles north of there. That house on the hill there, that was where I was born. And I remember people walking by there with their shovels on their shoulder and walking down to the gravel pit about a mile or so down the road from the farm there.
So when you think back to your childhood, what is one of your earliest memories?
Well, when my brother was still living, he was the oldest, of course, and when they built that 30 highway north of there, and I always told Art, I said, I can remember when the Prairie Road was coming across that hill south of the farm. He says, you can't. That was in 29 or in 31. I said, I swear I remember that or visualize that. And he said, you can't. So I don't know.
Okay.
I remember first day of school, we were bashful as all get out, we were.
Did you speak English when you started school?
Very little. Very little. In fact, In fact, when we went to church, we learned German. In fact, the Sunday school lessons, in one column there was English, in one column there was German, and we read it in German.
Do you know when the how old you were when the church started to go English more so than German?
Oh, I think that come in about definitely after World War II, and maybe some before.
So was it hard for you starting school and having to pick up English?
I don't recall being hard. Of course, I had three other sisters, to learn from. We're older kids,
How many kids were there in your family?
Five.
Can you take me in order from oldest to youngest?
Art was the oldest, and then Lorraine, and then Violet, and then Agnes, and then me.
So you were the baby.
Yeah. I always tell these guys it was the toughest to be the baby. They take all the crap from the oldest ones.
So how much older than you was Arthur?
There was 3 years difference in each one, so it would have been he'd have been 12. No, 3 times 4 would be 12. 12 years older than I was.
So he was quite a bit older than you.
Mm-hmm.
Were you close to him when you were growing up?
I don't think so.
What type of a person was he when you were a kid?
Well, I don't know how to say that. He was. Well, I know I always liked to be around his friends, with him and his friends. I remember that, and I don't think that they ever give me any guff. I don't know. I guess I got along real well with him.
How about Lorraine and Violet? Were you close to either of them?
I would say I was. Yeah.
And when you were growing up, what type of personality did Lorraine have?
Well, she was sort of a perfectionist. Everything had to be just so.
And how about Violet?
Well, she was a little more lenient. She was probably the smartest one in the bunch.
And then your Agnes?
Yeah, well, she was youngest. We were real close. We still are. She's still living. Yeah.
What type of a personality did she have?
Oh, I guess she had a nice personality.
What types of things would you do with Agnes?
Well, I remember we used to play with her a lot, with her and a cousin of ours. They always tell the story that when we took turns in something, Vivian was her name, Vivian Roth and Agnes, and when I played with them, whenever they did something, I always said, "I'm Sackett." I remember that.
What types of things would you do for fun? What type of games would you play with them?
Well, when it was snow, it was Fox and the Goose, and stuff like that. In the summer months, I don't really remember. I think we played with mud pies and stuff like that more than anything.
Anything to get dirty.
Yeah.
Since Violet and Lorraine were so much older than you, would they help take care of you as a kid? Or?
Oh, I think they did. I know. When I think back, I had to go with my folks a lot, and I suppose they didn't want me around, so they sent me with my folks.
So what's your dad's name?
Carl.
And what is your mom's name?
Johanna.
And what's your mom's maiden name?
Fay, F-E-Y.
Let's start with your dad. Where was he born?
He was born down in Antelope Township in McIntosh County.
And when you think back to your father, what type of a father was he?
Well, he was sort of an easygoing fellow. Mother was a little different. She she ruled the roost.
She was the one feared.
She cracked the whip.
Where was she born?
She was born also at Antelope Township in McIntosh County.
Did they ever tell you how they met?
I've heard already, but I can't remember. But it could have been. Well, they weren't very far apart down there. They were probably living in the same township or real close. Now, I don't know. I can't say if they met in school or what. I can't tell you that. I heard, but I can't remember.
When you think back, how would you describe them as a couple? Did they work well together? Like, what type of a marriage did they have?
Well, my dad was easygoing. I think whatever mother said, he sat back and took it and went on.
So would she help him out in the field?
Oh, you bet. You bet. All of us did.
What type of farmer was your father?
Grain farmer.
Grain farmer. Do you remember the grains that he grew?
Wheat and barley, and he was quite successful in flax.
Who was responsible for what chores when you were growing up? Like, what would the boys do and what would the girls do?
Well, I guess each one had his job assigned. I can't tell you what job, but each one had his duties. I mean, I know, like me and Agnes did, we had to carry the water and the coal. And a lot of times the girls they went out and worked out for people, you know, like at thrashing time or busy time of the season.
Was that hard for you when the girls left?
No. Well, everything got so much better, you know, so.
You said that you had to haul water. How far would you have to haul water?
Oh, maybe 100 feet, 150 feet.
And how often would you have to do that?
Every night. We'd fill the reservoir in the stove. You know, they had that cook stove with a reservoir on the side for hot water. That's how they used hot water. And we'd fill that in the evening and probably had a couple of cans of water sitting around for the next day. Coal was the same way. You got a few extra buckets of coal and set them out in the entryway and for the next day. In other words, we did the evening chore last till the next evening.
Where would you guys get coal from?
Pardon?
Where would you get coal from?
They went to town and got them. They come in with a boxcar. You had to go in and load them out of the boxcar.
Did your family ever have to use anything instead of coal?
Oh yeah. Yeah, they in fact they were in livestock too, you know, and that's just not only grain. They'd build probably a little fence. I would say maybe twice the size of this house. A fence, and they'd put the cattle in there during the night. And they would they put some straw in there. So anyway, the manure and stuff from the cattle, they would tromp it down, and then in the next spring or in the springtime, or the summertime, they would spade it and burn it. Spade it and stack it so it'd dry out, and then they'd burn it.
Did you have to help with that project?
Oh yeah, and we helped with that project. Yeah, yeah.
What other types of chores did you have to do?
Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I remember cleaning chicken barns and calf barns, pig barns.
So how would you clean them when you were a kid? What did you need to use?
Fork in hand.
How long would it take you to clean a barn?
Oh God, that's a good question. I don't know.
Was that something you had to do often?
Well, about every summer.
What would you do with the animals in the wintertime?
We all had them in the barn.
And in the summer, would they still be in the barn?
No,
or?
they'd be out in the pasture.
Okay. When you think about your parents and when you were growing up, were you close to your father?
I think I was.
What types of things would you do with him?
Well, I remember I go to town with him a lot. You know, as far as working with him, well, he'd work with the horses, and we got a tractor in '39 or in '40, and then of course my brother run the tractor. But after my brother left, then I run the tractor, and my dad run the horses, and then of course later on we got another tractor, so we both had tractors. So we worked together a lot as far as farming.
Do you remember when you first got your tractor in 1939, how that changed your farming?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I remember. I remember my dad talking, you know, when the when, when he was plowing, you know, and they were used to horses, and then of course when they plowed with that tractor and the plow hit a rock, you know, and the plow had hooked from the tractor to, you know, to prevent damage, and instead of my dad releasing the clutch, he'd always say, "Ho, ho."
That's funny. That's good. How many before you guys got the tractor? How many horses did you have on the farm?
Oh, we must have had about 6 or 8.
And how many would you work at one time?
I would say 4.
What was the most you could work 4 horses at one time before you needed to give them a break?
I think they worked them a full day.
Can you tell me what a full day consisted of? Like, what time would you get up in the morning, and then what would you typically do?
Well, the first time when they got up, you know, they had milking to do. They always, well, I think we milked about, I would say about a dozen and a half cows, at least 18 cows, 15, 18. Well, that was the first one. And of course, in them days, they used to separate by hand, so that took time. They fed the calves, and they fed the pigs. So I would say they probably got up at 6 o'clock, and they didn't get in the field till maybe till 8 or after. And then they'd go take off. They'd take off for dinner. And a lot of times, many times, I think all the time, I don't think they just had an hour noon. I think they had a longer noon hour than an hour. And then they'd go back. They'd go back to the field, and I suppose they were back in by 6:30 to do the chores again. So I don't think they had much of a 7-8 hour day with the horses. Of course, tractor a little different. Tractors, they went till, well, a lot of them had lights. They went after, you know, some went till midnight.
So it really changed.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, let's see here. When you were growing up, what type of house did you live in?
We had a regular 2-story house, 4-bedroom home.
So you had 4 bedrooms and there were 5 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Where would everybody sleep?
Me and Art had a bedroom, me and the older brother, and then the girls, they had a big, big bedroom.
Did you each have your own bed?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, we didn't. I think we had 1 single and two double. Hotter than blazes.
Did your mother have a summer kitchen?
No.
How many rooms were in the house?
There was a living room, dining room, and a bedroom on the first floor, and 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Was the living room a room that was off limits for kids, or could kids actually go in the living room?
They could go in the living room.
Okay. Would your parents entertain guests?
Oh, yes.
Can you tell me about what they would typically do?
Well, well, first of all, if it was on a Sunday, they served a big meal on either Sunday afternoon or Sunday night or whenever it was. And during the week, if they visited, like in the winter months, there's a lot of visiting going on, during the evening. Well, that was just plain conversations, and many times, if the right people come along, they sang a lot of gospel songs. And they enjoy doing that for a couple hours a night. And that's about the only entertainment they had,
What would the kids do when company came over?
Kids?
Mm-hmm.
Well, usually some of their kids come along, so they'd probably upstairs play.
Were most of the people in your community German Russian when you were growing up?
I would say the majority. I think we had one neighbor there that his name was Nelson. I think he was, I don't know what he was, but anyway, I know he couldn't speak German, but he mixed in real well.
You mentioned that sometimes they would sing gospel songs. Did anybody play a musical instrument in your family?
Yeah, Violet did. Played piano. I think all the girls sort of played, but did piano.
Do you know if they were self-taught?
I would think so.
Did you have a piano in your house?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Could your parents play?
No.
Let's see here. Did you know your grandparents at all?
No. I remember my grandmother just a wee little bit, but...
Which grandmother?
Meidinger.
What do you remember about her?
I think I remember going to the funeral, that's about it.
What was the funeral like?
See, in them days, they used to take the coffins in the house before the funeral, And I think I remember going to some home where my uncle, where she was, and then they took her from and that's all I actually remember.
So you were pretty young when she passed away?
Oh yeah, I must have been 4 or 5 years old, so.
And then your grandfather, Meidinger, he passed away then before you were...
Oh yeah. So did my 5 grandparents also.
Did any of your brothers and sisters get to know them, or?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were the ones that came from Russia and settled in the area. Your grandparents?
Well, my great-grandparents.
Your great-grandparents did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Surprise. When you were growing up, did you, besides your grandmother Meininger's funeral, do you remember any other funerals?
Oh yeah, I've been to a lot of aunts and uncles' funerals, sure.
What were they like when you were a kid?
Well, they were all. Well, I would say all of my uncles and aunts were really nice people, except for one. He was a little the youngest brother, or youngest uncle. He had a little bit of an alcohol problem, but other than that, the rest of them they were nice people.
Did you get to see your aunts and uncles often?
Quite often, quite often.
Did they live around the area?
Well, yeah. I had an uncle in Wishick. He died maybe early 70s. I had an uncle in Bismarck. He died, I think, in the 80s. And of course, that younger brother, he died in California, I just know, 10, 15 years ago. And my aunts, yeah. I visited them. I knew them all, let's put it that way. I remember them real well.
Let's see here. How about cousins? When you were growing up, did you get to see your cousins often?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Were you close to any one of them in particular?
Well, you see, my dad moved out of there in 28. He moved north of there. And all my cousins sort of stayed down there in that Antelope Township. And of course, some moved to Michigan, some moved to California. Yeah, I've been in contact with them. In fact, I just lost a cousin in Lodi there. That's I think he was about 94. Lost a cousin at Jamestown a year ago. I think he was 90-some.
So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. Talk about holidays. How was Christmas celebrated when you were a child?
Well, just like it's nowadays, we looked for all the goodies, although we didn't have that much. But there was a lot of goodies baked and stuff like that, you know, and we looked forward for that. Gifts, there was practically zero.
Did you have a Christmas tree?
No. Probably had one at church.
What would the church do?
Well, they had a Christmas program. We had to take part in the Christmas program.
What denomination were you?
Baptist.
What church did you attend?
Lair.
When you were growing up, was religion really important to your family?
Oh, yes. You bet.
Can you tell me about the role it played in your family life?
Well, they never missed anything, you know, as far as church services. I was telling a friend of mine here the other day, we had to go to church every Sunday and maybe every Sunday night. And the churches were cold as blazes. You sat in church with cold feet most of the time. We drove to church with a Model A, or maybe even an older car, and they'd put one of them big heavy. When they got to church, they'd cover up the engine with a big heavy. They call it a horse robe or whatever, so it wouldn't cool off so much. By the time church was, it would start again and go home, and had a hard time keeping the windshield. I remember that. But we went. We missed very few Sundays, I'll tell you that. And we didn't sit in the back pew neither. We sat in the front, and not with the parents neither. We sat with the kids, and everybody had to be quiet.
Did you have to go to Bible school? Or
Oh, yes.
what was that like?
Well, that was something we looked forward to, you know. You met different kids, and it wasn't like school, you know. You could, yeah, we enjoyed going to Bible school.
So in your church, was most of the congregation German Russian as well?
I would say so.
And how far was the church from your farm?
5.5 miles.
Was there anything that the church frowned upon when you were growing up that is now viewed differently?
Oh, they frowned on a lot of things.
Such as?
Well, like you know, like movies, for an example. That was a no-no.
Really?
Oh, you bet. Movies, dancing was a no-no. And living together was really a big sin. And divorces, that was terrible.
So with the movies and the dances, was that all the time? So like if you had like a wedding celebration, would there not be a dance then at a wedding celebration?
No, no. There was no alcohol then either. Alcohol, another deal. That was a no-no.
I've never heard the movies thing before. That's interesting.
Of course, they mellowed some on that though, but
Do you know about when they started to change on what was acceptable, what was not acceptable?
I would say right after the war, or maybe even before the war. I think that's a big change.
So did you guys have the same pastor every week, or was it somebody who lived in town?
No, they hired one. They if somebody quit, they went out and they found one. Like nowadays, you know, they send you one if you like it or not. I'll never forget I'll never forget and I can't remember the town they went to, but anyway, they give a pastor a call from South Dakota to come and serve at Laird Baptist Church, and of course this guy agreed to come. And we had and this could have been in the early 40s or during the war, I'm not sure. Anyway, in a way, this guy he was hauling cattle to Fargo, sell cattle. And he had a trucking business, what he did. And they had to move this preacher from South Dakota to Laird. So this guy told me, he was in the restaurant in Bismarck, he told me, he said, we three Jakes went down to South Dakota, he said, and moved this guy up here in that cattle truck, and he says, I don't think we even cleaned out the moved him up here, never cost the congregation a dime. Of course, that could have been a story, too. But I believe it.
Now I lost my train of thought. What do I follow with that? Baptism. When were you baptized?
I wasn't.
Not
I was baptized when I married Adeline here. She was Lutheran, and of course I wasn't really a Baptist member because I wasn't baptized. So I was baptized as a Methodist.
So
You know, the Baptists believe that you get saved and then you get baptized.
let's see here. So how did you meet your wife?
Oh, that's a long story. met her in Linton in a bar. She taught in Wishick School, And I was just, well, I was home from the service about a year. And I met her in Linton in a bar.
And how long did you date or court before you got married?
Oh, I don't know, a year maybe.
What was, back then, what was courting like? What would you do?
Well, you'd either go to a movie or go to some sports function or something, you know. That's about it.
So when you got back from the service, did you live in Lair?
I was there. I was there one winter, I think. First winter. So I got out in October, and I think I was out. I was lived in Lair till. Well, I was back in Lair for the summer months a couple of years, and I went to college.
So when you went to college, were you already married?
No,
Okay.
second year I was. First year I wasn't.
So were you just in Linton or
We
any reason?
we just have something to do, I guess.
Do you can you tell me a little bit about what your wedding was like?
Oh, I don't know. I think it was. Well, at that time, I think it was one of the better ones.
And how long have you been married?
51 years. Is that right? Will be 51 in August.
Okay. Well, I'll ask you a couple of concluding questions, and then we can pull out your certificate and your Army papers. Thinking back to your childhood, what is one of your scariest memories?
Well, one of my scary memories, you know, the tough times, you know, the drought and people who are concerned, you know, how they're going to exist. You know, a lot of people lost their land and couldn't make their payments, and I remember that real well. They were really concerned, and a good thing they were sort of self-supporting. You know, they had their own food, you might say. They had big gardens. They had their own meat, you know, stuff like that. A lot of dough. The Germans, they grew up on dough food, you know. And that's how they survived. If they'd have to do that today, I don't know how in the world they would do it. If they'd have to shell out money for whatever they need to live on, boy, that'd be tough nowadays. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
How about an adventurous story? Is there a time in your childhood that you were adventurous?
Well, we didn't get any place. Well, I'll take that back. We got to go to like fairs and stuff, you know, every fall. I remember the little town of Bernstead up there. They had a red lake. There's a big lake there. They had an old settlers picnic, and this was in the fall of the year. And we sort of looked forward to going to that. And then every little town had some kind of a celebration in them days. You know, we looked forward for that. That was about it.
And how about a happy memory? What are your happiest childhood memories?
I guess they were all happy.
Is there anything else about your childhood that you'd like to add?
there is. I can't think of it.